Hating Mr. Beast has become an industry just as large as Mr. Beast's brand itself. There are thousands upon thousands of videos dedicated to analyzing and breaking down just how terrible Jimmy Donaldson truly is. These videos bring in millions upon millions of views. Whenever discussion of Jimmy breaks out of his own viewership bubble and into the mainstream, it's generally a negative sentiment that's presented. How soulless and evil he truly is, and everything wrong and exploitative about the Mr. Beast brand. But the dog pile has gotten so big it's hard to look at it as genuine. The discourse has been repeated so many times, the substance has been primarily lost. Everyone wants you to hate Jimmy, but they won't give you any incredibly compelling reasons why, and that's just not good enough for me. Together, let's cut through the noise of the Beast hate industry and ask the question nobody else would. Is Jimmy actually evil, or is he just the most convenient and lucrative target on the internet? To answer that, we have to look at the people who are leading the mob against him. This is Rosanna Pansino. Despite her unassuming stature, she is Jimmy's #1 hater. Rosanna is a huge YouTuber herself, just shy of 15 million subscribers, and the content she makes is centered around cooking, baking, just food in general. Rosanna has aired many claims about Jimmy, but before we get into what her accusations truly are, the underlying question really is, why does Rosanna Pansino, in a niche completely different from Jimmy's, care so much? Well, Rosanna in the present does a great job sanitizing her image, only stepping into controversy to present herself as a beacon of virtuosity, but her past shows a propensity for cutthroat self-interest. Old friends from the beginning of her career clearly state that she abandoned them in the pursuit of success. Her husband himself used to be an extremely successful YouTuber before she influenced him to give up his entire career and delete his channel to manage her instead. The breadcrumbs in Rosanna's past paint a picture. She's self-centered and career-driven, prioritizing her benefit, her image, and the future of her own channel over anything else, and despite her outwardly cheery demeanor, she's not exactly a beacon of good character. Good people don't stand up their friends to meet with executives instead. The precipice of her feud with Jimmy begins with the Creator Games, where she's invited as a competitor. If you watch the video, she's not too notable, and seemingly didn't perform that well. But that's not the truth. She was actually in the top 3. But if you watch Jimmy's edit of the games, this isn't shown.
Look at that $1 million. Yeah, you can wave goodbye to it.
With 7 people now eliminated, we are down to the final 3.
Jimmy and his editing team decided in post that Rosanna just wasn't interesting enough to make up a substantial portion of the final cut. By doing this, they basically just misrepresented the actual results of the game, showing a top 3 that didn't actually occur. And that pisses off Rosanna, for an understandable reason, I would say. So she goes on to speak out, is faced with a ton of backlash and attack from Mr. Beast fans, and then she apologizes and seemingly the issue kind of goes away. But just on the surface. The time wasn't right to criticize Mr. Beast. She walks it back, but only for now. As soon as public sentiment shifts and it becomes lucrative to criticize Jimmy, well, Rosanna will take it personally upon herself to challenge, fight, and potentially slander him at every single opportunity. You were ecstatic to align yourself with him when it suited you, but now that it doesn't, you flip the script entirely. By herself, Rosanna's crusade didn't have enough fuel to take down the beast, but all of a sudden, it became much more credible when a secret insider decided to blow the whistle. Dogpack404, also known as Dawson French. Now, Dawson himself actually wasn't a really big YouTuber. He was unknown until his claim to fame arrived as a previous Mr. Beast employee who leaves the company to expose its terrible truth. Dawson releases 3 videos under this premise, all getting millions upon millions of views and really hitting Mr. Beast hard at a time where he was already going through some controversies. And even till date, I still see some of the accusations he made flying around this fact. It's safe to say that these videos largely shape public discourse, but then it gets a little suspicious when you realize that today, Dawson is nowhere to be found. He seems to have even deleted his 3rd video, which had some of the most serious allegations. You look even closer and Dawson didn't just leave Beast Industries in the first place out of principle. No, he was fired, something he begged them not to do.
I am not wrong. I've made the decision. I'm here. We will take care of it.
I appreciate that. Can I please have a second chance?
It's not.
If I'm getting paid, just let me come in and let me try to be coachable. If Hoodie changes his mind, can I? And I've been trying to get to this point of working on Mr. Beast for a long time.
Seemingly, not very many of his coworkers really liked him. They were uncomfortable around him. It seems like he was never really able to read the room. No matter how much Dawson himself tried to avoid it, he really is just a disgruntled employee who is absolutely obsessed with Mr. Beast, managed to land the job, but then fumbled it. Hungry for YouTube fame and angry, he makes a poorly researched series, which propels him shortly until people actually look into it and bully him off the internet. And that's the Takedown team. Two individuals who are personally upset with Mr. Beast and whose success also benefits significantly from besmirching him, signal boosting whatever allegations they can get their hands on. Now, there are a lot of accusations, but many of them just aren't worth addressing. You can find videos such as the one by Soggy Cereal going through each individual claim and individually debunking them. But our time will instead be spent on the most credible and significant ones, starting with the person who undeniably becomes Mr. Beast's biggest liability and almost ends his career, Kris. Kris's name alone carries significant weight to it nowadays. When most people think of Kris from Mr. Beast, they think of someone who's dangerous, disgusting, abhorrent, but this reputation wasn't garnered overnight. But the story's not that straightforward. See, this all occurred at a very tumultuous time. There's a lot of conflicting interests here. Kris was actually probably one of, if not the most liked members of the Mr. Beast cast, largely uncontroversial, funny, and had a reputation as a family man who cared a lot about his wife and son. Kris was a strong representation of a standard, run-of-the-mill, good old American nuclear family, and apparently this mattered a lot to some people. Now, despite what this may have seemed to others, this representation wasn't true to Kris's inner feelings, and that's why Kris eventually made the decision to come out publicly as transgender. Now, of course, despite us wanting to believe we live in modern times where society's progressed, a substantial portion still took issue with what a grown adult chose to do with their identity. So Kris, now officially Ava Kris Tyson, faced a massive amount of backlash. They're throwing around everything. Kris is abandoning his wife and son to play pretend. Kris is a bad role model for Mr. Beast fans, and a massive amount of pressure starts being applied to Jimmy and the Mr. Beast brand. There was a serious effort by dissenters to get Kris thrown off the Mr. Beast team. The most dedicated haters are going on to dig up everything they can about Kris, because if they can find just anything substantiated, that will be enough reason to... Oh shit. They found it. All the digging reveals one very clear fact. Kris is not an incredible person. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with Kris behind the scenes, and these are the facts. Kris, at age 20, befriends a young fan. Kris makes weird, inappropriate public jokes directed towards this individual. Furthermore, Kris supports and displays art of an artist who makes inappropriate drawings, most notably about Keemstar's daughter. This artist deserves no publicity, but to be noted, this is a very publicly infamous artist. This is not some niche underground stuff. And lastly, there's just a lot of evidence of Kris publicly pushing the envelope, making really edgy and weird statements, and even behind the scenes in some group chats. These are the cut and dry facts. Everything else beyond this is speculation and unsubstantiated, and there's no credible evidence I could find otherwise. There's no list of victims, there's no abuse, just a bunch of really disgusting and weird behavior. To make it very clear, this is enough for me to say that Kris really shouldn't have a public platform. We have no reason to give people like this the benefit of the doubt. It's totally fine and acceptable to throw Kris out of the Mr. Beast team for these reasons. Hell, throw Kris off the internet in general. I do not think Jimmy should stand by Kris, and he doesn't. As of right now, Kris is no longer a part of the Mr. Beast team, and whether you believe that's because she voluntarily left or because Jimmy kicked her out, that's up to you. Jimmy firmly distanced himself and in the background hired a law firm to complete an internal investigation. Take this with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, these are Jimmy's lawyers that Jimmy hired to investigate Jimmy's company. But this is their conclusion. Allegations of sexual misconduct between company employees and minors are without basis. The allegations were soundly rejected, including by alleged victims. The law firm came to this conclusion after conducting 39 interviews and reviewing over 4.5 million documents from mobile phones, emails, telegrams, discords, WhatsApps, and Slack. But of course, I hope you didn't forget about our two shining stars. What did they have to say?
The proof that Jimmy knew about Tyson's behavior is right here.
So Ava Tyson sends a photo of a young-looking girl in a sheer top.
How the hell could Jimmy say he doesn't know about his best friend when he's posting this in the chat with him.
Beyond doing the obvious, which is sensationalizing the story and perpetuating uncorroborated facts, my greatest problem with Rosanna and Dawson's interpretation of these events is how much undue responsibility they place on Jimmy himself. I think it's pretty obvious with how busy Jimmy is. He's not taking the time out of his life to monitor every online interaction of his friend and coworker Kris. I don't think there's some massive cover-up. I think at most, Jimmy probably knew that Kris was edgy and weird, but gave her the benefit of the doubt. But why would he do that? He has a company to run. He's being irresponsible.
Chris is one of my oldest friends, probably my oldest friend that I still know to this day. I've known him basically my entire life, and especially when I was doing videos earlier on, he was the funniest guy I've ever met. And I just noticed that when he was in the videos, they were so much funnier.
Me and Jimmy first met when we were in I think he was in middle school, I was in high school. We were kind of the only kids that really liked YouTube and really enjoyed talking about it. But then one day he said that he wanted to start a channel of his own.
Jimmy grew at an unprecedented rate, from a channel of a bunch of his friends to a multi-million, maybe even billion-dollar operation. Kris is someone who's been there from the very start. This is Jimmy's childhood friend. This is who he built the channel with when there was no one else with him. Jimmy trusted Kris, and it starts and ends there. Seemingly, as the issue was brought to his attention, he curbed it, and that's exactly what we can ask of him. But on the internet, it doesn't really matter, does it? The label had already stuck. Rosanna and Dawson were both extremely effective in shaping the narrative. Since I'm going to be spending a lot of time defending Jimmy, I might sound like a sycophant, but that's not the case. What we're analyzing here is whether he deserves the insane amount of hatred he garners, not whether he is perfect or even a great role model. Jimmy makes a lot of mistakes. Every time he seems to step out of the YouTube world, he fails repeatedly and spectacularly. Here's where we can really ring him out, because what's undeniable is that Jimmy has a propensity for sticking his name on some, in my opinion, absolutely garbage tier products. Mr. Beast releases the famous Beast Burger. I wonder if they still serve the Kris style burger, but something tells me it's probably a no. Mr. Beast partnered with Virtual Dining Concepts, and their model is simple. Instead of creating entirely new restaurants and kitchens, they're just gonna partner with existing kitchens and pay them to operate as their ghost kitchens. But wow, this is a horrible idea. Depending on where you order from, you might get an absolutely beautiful gourmet burger, while others might not even be able to fully cook it, serving raw food to your customers. This level of inconsistency and complete lack of quality control is not surprising for this sort of model, but it's definitely unacceptable, and Mr. Beast Burger fails spectacularly.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought owning a restaurant would be easier. It's actually kind of hard.
But that's capitalism, baby. You make a garbage product nobody wants, nobody buys it, and your business collapses. That's a system working as intended. Can we get some applause for capitalism? But this wasn't enough to take him out of the food industry. Let's talk about Lunchly. When it first came out, there were some packaging issues. Some Lunchly had mold in it. And turns out, selling a moldy product to children is not a good look. The problem with Jimmy's products and his brands, his jerky, his chocolate milk, his Lunchly, is that the Mr. Beast brand, when it comes to food products, is supposed to be a healthier or more real alternative to the typical processed junk. But over and over again, almost everybody agrees that eventually these products become virtually indistinguishable, or maybe even worse than the typical processed food that gets marketed to children. Feels like the health aspect is really supposed to be the separating factor in the value proposition. Now, it's important to ground ourselves. It's really not that bad, because turns out the vast majority of prepackaged food you're gonna get, especially for children, is terrible for them. It's not healthy. It's not healthy in any way, but that's the standard for the industry. Jimmy isn't doing something uniquely evil. It seems like at the start of his conquest, as you can see with his chocolate bars, he really did want to make a product that was a healthier alternative than the others. But he quickly realized that making a healthy product does not mean making a popular product. People will be more inclined to buy your food if it tastes good. So he quietly changed the mission and the recipe behind the scenes. Regardless, his food is created and distributed without exploitation of the third world, and that actually puts him a step in front of Nestle. Furthermore, although we can infantilize the children who watch Mr. Beast because, well, they might actually be infants, we do not need to infantilize their parents. Ultimately, it is your responsibility to determine the food that is worthy of your child's consumption. If you let Mr. Beast's marketing or your child's whining be the driving factor in your consumerism, then I'm sure you're falling for much worse things. And come on, that Mr. Beast brand Feastables chocolate bar will taste really good when he's starving you on the site of Beast Games. That's right, the Beast Games is not only Jimmy's largest production, but is a large source of ongoing controversy for him. And the problem with covering the Beast Games is that a lot of it is hearsay. There's an ongoing class action lawsuit where people are saying that they're mistreated, not medically cared for, not fed properly, unpaid, etc., etc. And the defendants in this lawsuit are most notably Mr. Beast and his company and Amazon MGM. That's right, he partnered with Amazon. So there was actually probably a much larger level of oversight this time around. Now, I'm not going to take a harsh stance on this one. There's an active lawsuit. Jimmy says the lawsuit will prove his innocence, and so will the behind-the-scenes footage that he can't release yet. The only evidence to the contrary is just random personal testimony, and I don't find that very compelling. Until then, the only thing I really have to say is that if random personal testimony is enough for you to crucify Mr. Beast, you might just be chomping at the bit to find anything to hate him for. You hater, you probably even hate his charity. Alright, that was a bit of a dramatic segue, but it's not as simple as it sounds. A lot of Jimmy's content relies on helping the less fortunate. He has an entire channel called Beast Philanthropy where, surprisingly, he does philanthropy. He's donated tens of thousands of dollars to people, gotten very emotional reactions on camera, and this rubs some people the wrong way. Are you taking advantage of people in a worse position than you for your own personal gain? Well, I contend that it entirely depends on how you do it. If I hold the dollar bill out for a homeless guy and I make him dance for it, then that's probably exploitation, right? This provides us the first thing that is important when navigating these situations, and that's respect. If you are using someone for content, you must respect them. I think Jimmy does a great job of respecting people. It never feels like he's making fun of them or making them the butt of the joke. Instead, it seems the opposite. I would say a lot of Mr. Beast's charity videos are empathetic, empowering. It's not mocking or making fun of the subjects. Instead, it's celebrating them and emphasizing their humanity for the more apathetic viewers. Consent is important too. We all dislike those videos where it's a hidden camera filming while a man donates to a homeless guy, as the homeless guy doesn't even have the ability to provide consent to the fact that he's being used for content. He doesn't even know what's going on. Now maybe if you asked him about it, he wouldn't really care, but it's important to ask him nonetheless. But with the level of production Jimmy does, it's not a hidden camera show. Everyone knows exactly what they're getting into. They accept these terms. It's not even like the content is the only reason he does it. There's plenty of charity Mr. Beast does that doesn't become content. There are a bunch of people that he did surgery for in the I Cured 1,000 Blind People video that didn't even end up in the footage. It's just very hard for me to see a case where Mr. Beast is actually exploiting these people. None of his videos show that to me, and there doesn't seem to exist any evidence to the contrary. Instead, again and again, the overwhelming testimony is thankful to Jimmy, and him being known and building a brand as the charity guy incentivizes him to do more charity. Why are we complaining that this guy is doing charity when the vast majority of content creators who can also do what he does don't even do it? Is fighting the battle against Mr. Beast that important when there exist people that are so much worse than he is in every single way? It seems absolutely out of touch to focus on and really target your harassment towards this guy, when I would say the impact he has overall is generally positive. There are much more despicable and dangerous creators out there. One of them even allegedly copyright claims your video every single time you use a clip of his podcast, and I would say that's pretty despicable. Some of them even promote every ism you can think of, and frankly deserve the smoke much more than Jimmy does. People don't hate Mr. Beast because of any of these reasons. They've already made up their mind. They're just looking for a reason to dislike him. And that's why we gotta ask ourselves the question, why is Jimmy so unlikable? Jimmy is the undisputed king of YouTube. He's literally at the top, and a lot of people do not feel like he deserves it. Maybe the content at the top should be a representation of the best of YouTube, and Jimmy, in my opinion, isn't necessarily the best of YouTube. But honestly, that's a naive interpretation. The content that makes it all the way to the top is that which has the broadest mainstream appeal. Just because McDonald's is the most popular burger chain in the entire world doesn't mean it's the best burger chain. Furthermore, Jimmy isn't the most charismatic or likable guy. I think he's fine, but he's no Tony Stark. Jimmy isn't a public speaker and a charismatic personality that decided to get into YouTube. He's a YouTuber who is forced to build passable public speaking and presentation skills to be successful. Jimmy's main drive is not to be eloquent, it's not to be well liked, it's not to be persuasive, it's to be the best YouTuber. That's all he ever cared about.
Hide me in 10 years. I'm going to schedule upload this video 10 years in the future. So you're going to see this in 2025. I better have 1 million subscribers when you guys see this. Probably be doing YouTube as a job. Hopefully. Maybe. I don't know. I'd be crazy if I had some ridiculous amount of subscribers.
What this means is that Jimmy might be okay on camera. He might be good at the stuff he does. But outside of that, he can sometimes be awkward.
Your shirt. Sorry, you don't like to get touched.
What is with you
I know.
and touching me?
No.
Here,
Matthew, can you hold this for a second?
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah.
Aiden, I think it's time we set some boundaries.
Let's do it.
Unfortunately, this makes him come off to other people as soulless, and neither his bleach white veneers or his over-edited thumbnails help this perception. He's also made some questionable moves in crypto. Look, Jimmy does have many off-putting characteristics, many reasons why you might not want to consume his videos, his products, or champion him whatsoever. But when it comes to the totality of his actions, he's really not that bad. He goes out of his way to do good that his contemporaries don't do, while Logan Paul fights the victims of his crypto scam in court. Mr. Beast lets Dawson and Rosanna both get away with their slanderous criticism, despite the fact he has infinite resources and very valid reasons to crush them. He just doesn't do it. So hey, lay off Jimmy, okay? He's an alright guy. And that's all I got. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. I'm not Mr. Beast. I barely have 1/1,000,000th of his subscribers. So if you enjoy what I do, then like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton. And if you enjoyed watching this video, you might enjoy watching either of these.